Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The Underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the Underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld podcast, your weekly source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. And this week, Jon Favreau is out there teasing what's to come in The Mandalorian and Grogu. He's also talking about what might have been Season 4. Leslie Headland is talking for the first time about the cancellation of The Acolyte and how she feels about how all of that went down. Plus, there are a bunch of Star Wars projects nominated for Children and Family Emmys, including Skeleton Crew with 17 noms. And we'll be answering your burning questions in another classic, iconic, delightful edition of Ask the SWU. So stick around for that. First, though, introductions are in order in case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are. That can happen. My name is Dominic Jones, and with me, as always, it's the founders of the Star Wars Underworld, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guys.
I think I'm a clone now. Okay. Yeah, I to be fair, I don't know what's going on either, guys. And if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you have no idea. If you're watching this, you're probably even more confused, to be honest. So for some reason, there's two of me now. I officially cloned myself, and it's going to come in real handy in the future. I'll have podcasts just with myself from now on. It's going to be the best, and I'm going to get twice as much work done every day. It's going to be great.
Allow me to say, this is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Somebody had to say it.
Now there are two of Ben. Oh, it was right there. Oh, it was right there, and I missed it. Missed a big swing.
Shame.
And a miss. Swing and a miss. Like Shohei Ohtani chasing a Trey Savage cutter. I'm not still sad. Oh my God. I'm trying to hold on to the good moments from the World Series. Also with us, as always, good friend and co-host, Chris Seekell.
See, here's the thing, is like twins and clones, they usually finish each other's sentences, but somehow Ben's clones are speaking in perfect unison, and that's really strange. And they've synced up their voice so much that it doesn't even sound like two voices. It sounds like one voice, which is wild.
Speaking with one voice. It's like Palpatine at the end of The Rise of Skywalker with all the Sithiness behind him, you know. All of that, you know, all that good stuff. Yeah, this is
Ben is about to say, I am all the Bens.
I have been every voice you've ever heard.
Oh man. Well, let's we'll dive straight into things this week. We'll get to the news and everything that's going on. First, though, we will quickly plug a few things. As always, want to remind you to punch the subscribe button. Chewy. So if you're listening or you're watching on YouTube and you can see the two Bens, that means you should subscribe because there's twice as much Ben as there used to be. And this is a show that Ben has once or twice hosted by himself. So now he could have could co-host the show just by himself. We really aren't needed anymore. Also subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that good stuff. During the show, you can super chat with us. That way you can guarantee your question will be asked in Ask the SWU. And become a channel member if you like what we're doing here and you want to support the show. You don't get like cool benefits or anything. We're not one of those shows. You just sort of throw some money at us and we go, thank you. And if you're listening on a platform that lets you leave a review, please do that. Preferably 5 stars, although I'll take 4 stars. 3 stars, why bother? Follow us on social media at the SWU and join the Discord, the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord between shows for fun things like game nights and movie nights, and just to keep the conversation going between the shows. And of course, check out the other programming on the Star Wars Underworld Network, like the Raeside, Ion Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, and the Tractor Beam.
And keep with the theme tonight of 2, you will notice, if you're on YouTube right now, you will notice there's not 1, but 2 streams. There's the normal Star Wars Underworld podcast, and there's Star Wars Underworld, the skinny edition. And you can watch it right now simultaneously. So pick whichever stream you want. So if you want it vertical, horizontal, we got you covered.
Do we call it SWU 0 or Diet SWU?
SWU 0 is sort of what happens when all of our internets break at the same time.
See, here's the thing though, hot take. I think there should be more 3-star reviews in the world, because aren't you tired of looking up a review and it's like a bunch of 5-star reviews and a bunch of 1-star reviews, because only people who really liked it or really hated it like said stuff, and you're like, I don't really care about the people who like weirdly are obsessed with this or weirdly hate this. I just want to know how many people think it's good. Where are all the 3-star people just saying, hey, this is solid, I like this, it's not amazing, it's not terrible, I still recommend it, it's just good.
I think actually we just need less reviews. I think is the thing. I just want to go into a place and be surprised, and I want to stop like obsessing over reviews in general. Like you know, for a movie or an album or a show, like that's one thing. But like, I'll spend hours reading reviews of products, and there's like no reason for it. It doesn't change. Like I'm looking at it going like, is this really the best of what's being offered? Is this really the best phone case there is? And really all I should do is just buy one and save my time and stop reading the reviews. But anywho, review the show. If you like it, review it. And give us, you know what? Give us 3 stars. We'll take 3 stars. 2 stars, then we have a problem. Then we will send the Bens to fight you.
Give us 2 5-star reviews. How about that?
2 5-star reviews. Yeah, let's make it a 10-star review. That sounds like a grand idea. All right, let's get into the news. Let's start with The Mandalorian and Grogu, the movie that is coming out next year. We're finally sort of we've gotten our first teaser trailer. We had a celebration panel. This is how you know the movie is really starting to, we're starting to get close to it, because Jon Favreau was interviewed by one of the entertainment magazines. That's kind of the first sign that you're really getting close. He spoke with Empire magazine for their 2026 preview. He had a few things to say of varying levels of interest. We'll go through them though. This is what he says. Quote, "The Mandalorian has changed his priorities. One of the last things we say in season 3 is like, I don't want to go out there and just be a hired gun. I want to work for the good guys." He also said of the relationship between Din Djarin and Din Grogu, that central relationship as they go off and face adventure together, that's the underpinning of the film. Star Wars is always about progression and growth and characters evolving, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. It's about the apprenticeship. It's one generation teaching the next. There's more growth that happens over the course of the film. And he touched on Zeb being a significant character in the movie. Let's say that. He said, quote, "Now we get to really have fun with him. He's such a compelling character, even if you've never seen Rebels, between the voice, the swagger, and the physical ability." Agreed, John. Agreed on that last point for sure. They also released this picture that we've got up on the screen of Mando and Grogu in some kind of cantina looking place. Here's my question. And I want to preface this by saying this, I'm not passing judgment. I'm genuinely asking, who are these quotes for? Because
for people that read Empire magazine, clearly.
Well, see, this is the thing, right? Like, for us, we know all of this. Like, there's nothing new in any of that, right? There's nothing new. So it's okay. It's not for us. Is this just a big ploy to try and get people's attention that this movie is happening? Because between this and the trailer, it really seems to me like they must have some marketing somewhere or like some market research, I should say, somewhere that says people don't know that this movie is happening, so we need to make them aware of it. And so they're putting out these really safe bits of marketing, like this picture, like these quotes, like the trailer, that seem to be designed to go, hey, Mando movie next year. Come out and see the Mando movie. And my feeling is, shouldn't you put out something more exciting so that the people like us who are excited about it already get to be even more excited, and then we'll go scream from the rooftops about this movie that will then catch that audience that you are trying to appeal to with these not bad, but not super duper interesting bits of marketing, like this interview, like this picture, like the trailer?
The way to answer that question is just what percentage of the audience is on a Star Wars podcast and what percentage of the audience isn't. And it's a big, I think it's a majority of people are on Star Wars podcasts that are going to watch this movie. So I think for those people, one of these things, whether it's a interview in Empire Magazine or, whatever, billboard, like that's the only thing they're going to see. That's the only time they're ever going to think about this. And while I would like to have so much influence that me getting excited about them revealing something interesting that we didn't know and are surprised by that's going to happen in Mandalorian and Grogu, them revealing that would then cause me to influence 1,000 other people to watch the movie. I would like that, but I don't think that's the case. So I think it's just it's marketing is just being present. Like one of the things that I learned, because I did go to marketing school like 50 years ago. I don't know, it was a while ago when I went to college, but at some point in the last century or whatever, I went to college, and in marketing school, they actually taught me something that I didn't really think about intuitively that I think about all the time and have since then, which is brand awareness is very important for marketing. So you don't necessarily need to get someone hooked on a product and convince them to buy it or to see a movie and give them like some type of hook to it that it's like, oh my gosh, I got to see it because of this reason. Sometimes you just need to remind people that something exists so that then when they need to make a decision to go buy something or watch something, it's kind of at the front of their brain. So for example, somebody might in May be going to the movie theater and being like, okay, this weekend I want to go to the movie theater, with my friends or my family or my partner or whatever, and I don't know what to see. Mandalorian Grogu. Oh yeah, I saw a piece in Empire Magazine mentioning that, a few months ago. Let's go see that. There's a lot of people talking about that. Like, I think that's how it works for most people. And so, same thing. Like, if I go look at movies at a movie theater, as a film enthusiast, that side of me is like, oh, what's the most interesting thing? What thing, are people not talking about that could be really cool? But in general, kind of the consumer part takes over, and it's just like, all right, of these 10 titles, which one do I know anything about? Which one did I hear anybody say anything about that was interesting or brought to my awareness at all? And I'll go see that one because one person talked about it, or I saw one article about it, or one commercial for it somewhere. And so I think that's the majority of the audience. So again, I think we would have loved to have this amount of trivial brand awareness of Solo, a Star Wars story, and we didn't. So I think now it doesn't make sense to complain about it when we're getting something that we've lacked in the past. I don't think we should take it for granted that they're doing this, and I don't think that we should downplay how important this is for it being financially successful and then being able to pay for more stuff like this that we will see.
That's fair. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of thinking along the same lines of a lot of the marketing, which hasn't been much, really haven't, other than the trailers, been no marketing for the movie so far. It's just been like people talking about it in interviews, and we got a trailer, and we got a poster, and a press release on StarWars.com. Like a lot of this stuff has just kind of felt like very surface level, very announcement like, of just like kind of just catching up the normal general public on like, oh, hey, by the way, this TV show that you really, really liked is now a movie. And we want to let you know that because, let's face it, most people in the general public do not. Like, my parents, big fans of The Mandalorian. Until the trailer came out, it wasn't real to them that it was a movie now. That like more than once, I'm like, I told you guys the movie's coming next year. Like, it's a movie now? What? I'm like, come on, I told you this. But like that's the general public. That's the point of view on this is. And I think most of the stuff, and with Favreau's quotes here, yes, there's not a lot of really substantial stuff, but it's more or less just like giving you that surface level stuff and getting you prepared for, I'm hoping, the meat and potatoes of the marketing, which will come later. It is interesting that like, this is an Empire magazine. We've seen many Empire magazines have the cover devoted to the next Star Wars film coming out. What's on the cover of this thing? Not The Mandalorian and Grogu. This is a small part of this. Guess what's on the cover? The Odyssey by Christopher Nolan, which comes out after The Mandalorian and Grogu, interestingly. And yet that is the big thing. That's the big thing that's having people talking and all this kind of stuff. And Mandalorian and Grogu is kind of low key. And that's kind of everything about this movie feels kind of like they're kind of keeping it on the down low. For whatever reason, the trailer was kind of low key. It was big. It was big. It's bombastic, but it wasn't like wow. It didn't wow anyone really. And ultimately, it's just kind of like they're just letting it simmer. And maybe that's a good strategy. Maybe just like let it surprise people. Don't hype it up as this is the biggest thing ever. Maybe it's not going to be the biggest thing ever. Or maybe it'll actually surprise people. There's been so many movies. That's the thing on the internet. Just people like, who asked for this? Who asked for like what? When was the last time you asked for anything? And then also like there's so many movies that like just came out of nowhere. Who asked for K-pop Demon Hunters? Yet here we are.
I asked for the Hunt for Ben Solo. I'd just like to put that out.
Okay,
there.
that's an exception. We all asked for that. We all asked for that.
Yeah, no, I fully hear what you both are saying. My feeling though is to quote a little girl from a taco commercial, why not both? Why not like have something in that can be an Empire, but that also is exciting, like that would be exciting for two Star Wars fans. Again, like, obviously the priority should be getting those of us that don't, or getting the people that don't know that this is happening, not those of us who are doing or listening to Star Wars podcasts. But I sort of feel like, you could show something cooler. There's got to be some cooler shots that you're okay with showing. Again, I go back to that celebration footage, like the fact that it started with the one taker action sequence and then cut to a back and forth with dialogue between Din and Sigourney Weaver's character. Like that was exciting. That was fun. That I think sort of captured the feeling of the movie much better than anything that we get here, which is very, very, I won't say bland, but it's just sort of, it's regular. It's what you expect Jon Favreau to say. I swear he said this about every single season of the show. And the other part of it is like, I think back to the old Star Wars movies. I think back to the sequel trilogy, right? And I compared the teaser trailer for this to say the teaser trailer for like The Last Jedi. Like there was so much more in The Last Jedi teaser that reminded people like, yep, those characters you liked, they're coming back. Rey, Finn, Poe, Kylo Ren, all back. Luke's back. But like it teased out like there's going to be something new. There's going to be something different. There's something exciting that might be happening here that you should get invested in, right? Like the trailer ends with "It's time for the Jedi to end." Like that's a really good stinger. It stays with you, and it keeps people interested and engaged. I think back to, we used to get those really wonderful Entertainment Weekly stories with just a ton of new imagery. and it was always, there would be these sort of regular shots like this one. That's just, characters there. But there would be new and interesting ones too that tease things about the story. And this tells me nothing about the story other than, hey, those two characters are in it. And that's sort of what I'm getting at, is like it feels like that part of it is missing. There's something new here is missing. And I don't know, I feel like that should be part of it. Am I crazy?
No, well, okay. I don't think it's the marketing. I think it's the movie. Like, I don't think that exists. I don't think there's anything in this movie that does that. And that's the feeling that I got from the second that this movie was announced. Like, when they announced that they're making a movie about the Mandalorian and Grogu going on an adventure, I'm like, okay, that's what it is. Like, there's not going to be any crazy, like, I am your father moments, or like, there's nothing in this movie that I think is going to really surprise us and make us like really, really think and have like a long, philosophical discussion about Star Wars. Like, I don't expect that. Like, I think this is just going to be like a long episode of The Mandalorian, and not like, the finale of the seasons, but like something in the middle or at the beginning where, it's just an adventure. There's some action sequences, there's a plot that they're following. But yeah, I don't think there's any big, like, mind-blowing reveals in this movie, and therefore there's nothing to hook the marketing around in that way, which is why I think the marketing's more just like, hey, it's actually been a few years since we've seen these characters on screen. They're back, and it's a bigger screen. Like, and I think that's the point of the movie and the point of the marketing.
And so, in that case, my sort of response to that is, then show me something cool, right? Like, show me something fresh.
Like an AT-AT falling off a cliff.
That is cool. That's one shot out of a whole trailer, right? And that
you just show it again and again.
But like that, yeah, I keep comparing the trailer that we have to the trailer that we should have had, which is the Celebration one, which I still think it had like virtually the same beats. Like, it was the same beats, but better. Like, it showed it to you in a way that like you got the AT-AT falling, which is awesome. That is awesome. No arguments here. You got the Hut, who's probably Rada going in the pit. Awesome, love it. But you also got the again, I go back to the one take action scene, the back and forth with Sigourney Weaver. Like, those moments stuck out in my mind as like, okay, we're gonna get some like fun, interesting things here. Whereas right now, the trailer that we got is okay. It's gonna be Din and Grogu. They're gonna blow up an AT-AT. Then they're gonna go watch a wrestling match. And then Grogu's going to run around with Babu Frick's relatives. Like, I'm like, show me give me a badass shot of Din flying away or punching something, or like, show me like that side of things that I think could really like just, inject some energy into what feels like a fairly perfunctory advertising campaign. Because look, I agree the movie's probably not going to be The Last Jedi in terms of like, oh, we're going to show you something different and unexpected, yada, yada, yada. That's fine. It's not going to be that. It's not even going to be The Force Awakens or The Rise of Skywalker or Rogue One when it comes to that sort of thing. But just give me the thing about The Mandalorian back in season 1 and 2 in particular was that it was cool. It was cool to see this guy stomping around through space, fighting people. So give me that back. Show me that. Promise me that you're going to do that, but scaled up. And there are flashes of it. Again, AT-AT falling off the cliff. Mwah, excellent. But just I feel like we need a little bit more. That's I'm just looking for from
and also
and maybe we'll get it in January.
I mean, we have like 6 months till this movie comes out, so there's a lot of time to inject that. It's still early.
Yeah, I'm just again, I'm comparing it to the sequel movies, and Ben, I'm going to let you in just a second here.
No, you're good.
I'm comparing it to the sequel movies, and I felt like they got rolling on the here's those things you like, but in a new light part of it quicker, and I feel like we're just missing the new light. Ben, jump in here.
No. All I say is like it reeks of like old school Lucasfilm secrecy too, like this whole like they put the Hut in the trailer, but they won't talk about it. Like Jeremy Allen White's just out there like, oh yeah, I'm playing Lord of the Hut, like because people have pressed him enough that he's just relented. Whereas Favreau won't talk about it. None of them will talk about it. Like, they're just now talking about Zeb, even though he was in footage from way back at Celebration, and photos like that. So like, and we know just based on what they've said, there's more to this movie than just what's in the trailer. Like, there's so much more. Like, apparently, it's not just Mando Grogu. It's also like Road to the Hutt is along for this epic adventure, and we haven't seen any of that adventure. So like, there's so much more to this movie, and like they like even the images like they show this image. This is an image showed, but it was way back. Somebody like took this image and like took a picture of a screen at a con and then put it into an AI upscaler, and it was floating around online. So we've basically seen this this thing, not quite greatest quality, but we've seen this image before. This is nothing new. I think it just picked a slightly different image. It would have made a bigger splash online. And like, as far as marketing goes, free marketing here, podcasts, YouTubers, all this kind of stuff. We'll
on the show, John.
Give us anything new. We will go on and on about it for a week for free.
You know what? I'll even settle for the wrong Jon Favreau. Get me the Pod Save America host. We'll have him on. We'll interrogate him about the Mandalorian, and he'll be like, "I know nothing. I wrote speeches for Obama. God. I'm too good for you." I like Favs. I like both Favs. They're both cool. Anyways, yeah, I'm not trying to be negative. I am super excited for this movie, and going back to a point I think you originally made, Chris, is like they don't need to convince me. I'm there. My ticket's not bought because it's not for sale yet, but it's as good as bought, and it's as good as bought 2 or 3 times at least.
And for the key thing to make money off of you is to see how many times they can get you to watch it. Like, it could be 5, 10, 15, and that's all going to be 100% dependent on the movie itself.
Yeah.
You're going to make that decision after you watch it once, not before. It's not like you decide off the trailers, am I going to watch it 10 times or once? You're going to watch it once. We've got that. And then after you watch it, then you see how much you like it and if you want to see it every day for the next month.
The other way they could make a little extra money off me is announce what the Lego sets and Black Series figures and all that stuff is going to be, and if it's cool, and that's the sort of and we'll see how this goes with the movie, because with the shows it never worked this way. But that's the sort of thing you could get me to buy before I see the movie, right? Like, that's the sort of thing. Like, think about before The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rogue One, all this stuff. We were going in there buying up all the Black Series figures and whatnot. And I've kind of shifted away from Black Series and more into like Legos and like Lego and stuff. So if you show me a cool, Rod of the Hutt Lego set, with him and Dan and Grogu on the adventure, the movie could suck, but if that set's cool, it might be in the collection pre-May 26th or whatever the opening day is.
I have a proposition. So, I very much too would like to just transition to Lego, but also it's like $1,000 for each set. So no, I can't at the moment. So I have barely been buying any Star Wars merchandise for the past 3 years. I think it's been like one action figure every like 9 months or something like that.
Right,
but like, they should bring back the Midnight Madness events for this movie, because that would get me to buy something if I actually had an event to go to and I was all hyped for it and I'm like, well, I got to buy some stuff because that's the point. Like I would buy more merchandise if there was a Midnight Madness event than if not. If it just slowly just appears and it's only like half there because it's bad stock, it's not exciting, it's not interesting, it's just like it's been for the past several years. So yeah, they need to do a midnight launch event for the merchandise and put everything out on the same day, and that would be great. They'd make a lot of money.
Yeah, even if it's just at like the Disney stores, like which would suck for me because there are no more Disney stores in Canada. But like, like sort of roll them out like that, because like I'm thinking like where are the places that you would do these things? Toys R Us is kind of gone. I mean, we still have those, so maybe we can have Toys R Us. You guys can have Disney stores.
Well, they did it at really big general stores too. Like I feel like Target definitely did it. I'm not sure about Walmart. But stores like that, I think did midnight events back for like Force Awakens. I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's right. I just remember the Rise of Skywalker one was during New York Comic Con. So Chris Abbott and I went to the Disney store in Times Square for Midnight Madness. It was fantastic. I just remember rocking up to it. I was wearing a Rise of Skywalker logo t-shirt. And I remember like rocking up to the Disney store a couple hours in advance to like get in line and like seeing a few people outside the store going, is that the line? Is that the line? And then seeing the two guys at the end of the line were wearing the same shirt that I was wearing. I'm like, yeah, I'm in the right place. All right. Hello, everybody. Let's get into this. Good times. Yeah. Bring that back in some capacity. Watch. They'll be like, we're doing virtual Midnight Madness where the toys go on sale on Amazon at $11.59. I'll be like, no.
It's got to be it needs to be it needs to be a third place event. And I don't. The only one that I know still does that for things is GameStop. Like whenever, because the GameStop for me is kind of near the Target but I don't really go to GameStop, but I go to Target. So whenever I go to Target, I notice if I'm there kind of later at night, there's like a line starting to form for something at midnight at GameStop. And I never know what it is, but there's always something that they're releasing. If it's a game or like some type of exclusive GameStop merchandise, like Pops or something. I don't know, but
I remember being in the line for, I think it was The Last Jedi Midnight Madness. And we were lined up outside of Toys R Us. And somebody drove by and shouted, like they drove by, they stopped, they rolled down the window, they go, "Hey, what game is coming out tonight?" We're like, "Oh, Star Wars toys, way better."
Way better.
Favreau had a couple of other interesting things to say. They asked him how, the movie will be different from the show. He says it's structured around a movie structure as opposed to a serialized weekly television show. So there's a larger throw to the whole thing. So, this has been I think a question people have been asking, like, is this just 4 episodes sort of crammed together, and will it feel like 4 separate adventures just sort of all in one? It sounds like probably they took 1 or 2 episodes and just expanded them out into a bigger, more epic scaled adventure. Because Favreau also did touch on the fact that they were actively planning a 4th season. He said, we were planning on doing a 4th season. I had actually written all of it. I still have season 4 sitting on my desk here. So everyone break into John's office and steal his scripts so we can find out. I kind of wonder if Favreau thinks they're going to go back to doing a show after this. If he's like, all right, we'll do our movie, and then once that's done, let me do my show again. Like if he still wants to.
That's the way the quote sounds. It's almost like, oh, well, I've got season 4 here. It's ready to go. Like it's still here. Like I made the movie, I wrote the movie, but this is still here. Almost giving off the idea that like maybe season 4 wasn't cannibalized to create the Mandalorian and Grogu. I mean, I don't know. Like, Favreau's obviously playing his cards a little close to the chest here. We're only left to speculate here, but it makes the most sense that like they would have just converted that into a movie, but maybe they didn't. We don't know. It seems like Favreau's just like, well, I've got it here. Let's just shoot it after this. And I'm like, Favreau, I don't. Have you seen Disney lately? Have you talked to anybody over there? I don't think The Mandalorian is going back to Disney Plus. I just have that inkling, unless I don't know, unless The Mandalorian and Grogu makes like $3 billion, and they're like, yeah, we'll do another season, and we'll do 5 more movies.
Look, if The Mandalorian and Grogu makes $3 billion, Ben, then you know what? We never, ever, ever have to talk about Disney marketing ever again. So we'll just have to admit they are geniuses and move on.
Wow. I mean, like I've said before, this movie is extremely unique because it's the first movie that was touching like 3 or 4 generations. So, like, there's a reason for people of all ages to watch this movie, and now that range of all ages is like a 50-year range or something. So, like, if anything has the potential to make more than any Star Wars movie before it. This certainly does. I just, it's the question of what do people care more about, the Mandalorian and Grogu or seeing Han Solo again after 25 years?
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, and that's why like when I was talking about the marketing for like comparing it to the sequels, I was really like trying to stay away from the Force Awakens stuff, because that, like, seeing Han Solo, like, we were all there for Celebration, right? When that teaser ends with Han, like, there is nothing in like almost any Star Wars movie that will ever be able to compare with that moment in a trailer. Like, it's just not possible. I genuinely think it's not possible, at least not for another many decades. And even then, given the fact that, by the time the Rey movie comes out, I feel like the maximum amount of time between Daisy Ridley Star Wars movies is 10 years, right? Harrison Ford went 35, like 30, right? Like, it's very different.
I would listen. if I was sitting down at a Star Wars Celebration, and I that moment was special because I think we were on the Star Wars live stream reacting to that. You could see us reacting to that moment, which was really cool. Everybody had like their hands in there. It was like we were on a roller coaster. It was great.
I genuinely like blacked out. Like, that happened. I don't remember what happened next, and then I was on my feet. I do not remember the process of standing up. I just was like,
nah.
Yeah.
The wildest thing about that was not seeing it, which again, seeing it for the first time would have been pretty wild. But the wildest thing about that was that we did multiple podcasts talking about that scene and that line like a year before that moment. And it was just really surreal to see the thing we'd been talking about actually happen, because at that point we didn't know for sure that we're just making all this up. Like, what if this is not real? But it was. And so it was really weird. It was almost like we kind of like materialized something into existence by talking about it in a way. So that was what was so surreal for me about that. But anyway, the point is, the reason why I keep talking about this is if we're at Celebration Los Angeles in 2029 or whatever that is, it's not next year, I know that, but sadly, and we're sitting down the same way, we're all together, and then they show a trailer, and at the end of the trailer there's a shot of Natalie Portman as Padme Amidala. I will react the same way. So don't tell me that there isn't potential for that.
Okay, there's maybe the one. But, and like, we in the lead up to the Obi-Wan show, there was a lot of like good, like, just having Ewan back stuff and that sort of thing. But I don't know. I still think Harrison was kind of the ultimate, but Natalie would come close. It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be straight. It would be interesting because they might. I don't know if they would have to do de-aging. Like, it's shocking how much she still looks like she did when she filmed the Star Wars movies. But you have that the only thing that really puts a wrench into that concept is like, her character's dead, so you can't have an older version of her character in canon. Right. It doesn't make sense. But I feel like there has to be some way to go back and do a Clone Wars era story and have a really good de-aging or AI. Here's what I want. I want a world where they figure out how to appropriately mitigate the negative environmental and economic effects of AI. So they figure out like perfectly, like, here's a machine, and for every AI thing, it cleans carbon out of the air and depollutes the ocean at the same time, and then also and money goes to this or that charity, everything to make it okay, all the things, and then everybody re-embraces. Well, if an actor signed off on using AI as part of their performance or to replace their performance, it's ethical, it's okay. And so Natalie Portman agrees to do like a motion capture of an AI model of herself, and then we get a Clone Wars movie. And then it's Natalie Portman, but we're seeing her as she was, a young Padme character before she dies, but it's still Natalie Portman and it's still ethical. I would react like we reacted to the surprise of seeing Rogue One and seeing young Carrie Fisher in that, but like even more so because it's like a whole movie, not just a scene. Like that I would absolutely love that. So it's like, I don't know why we brought up the question of can we have this moment again, but we can. That's my point. I don't remember why we asked that question.
Oh man! All right, let's move on. Let's move on from all this. We'll move off of the Mandalorian, and we'll shift gears over to another Star Wars show. Although one that's unlike the Mandalorian, which is continuing, ended before its time. Leslie Headland is finally speaking about the cancellation of The Acolyte. She was interviewed by The Wrap this week, and here's what she said. Quote, I was not surprised by it being the cancellation. I think I was surprised at the swiftness of it and the publicness of it. I was surprised by how it was handled. But once I was getting particular phone calls about the reaction and the criticism and the viewership, I felt like, okay, the writing's on the wall for sure. The viewership was a little muddled for me because, and this is my understanding, with Star Wars, you're not just measured within the marketplace that you happen to be in at that time. You're measured against every other Star Wars show. We hit the Nielsen's a couple of times, not every week or anything like that, but a couple of times it poked through. I feel like for a launch of a first season show that was trying to do different things, I think that it could have been worth it to allow the audience it was meant for to find it. But that wasn't up to me, so I fully respect the decision, even if I'm sad about it. Interesting sort of response, right? Because this was one of the things that came out, that's come out kind of in the last year since the Acolyte was canceled, was the show was one of the biggest hits on Disney Plus by numbers for 2023. But if you compared those numbers to the numbers of shows that came out in 2022, 2021, 2020, and 2019, it wasn't good enough. It was significantly lower, which to me says that the market is changing, but that the show is still popular, but that's a separate conversation. So it sounds like basically because it wasn't doing the Mandalorian numbers, it didn't matter how it was doing compared to, Percy Jackson or whatever Marvel show was coming out that year. It was being judged against the Mandalorian, which is, I don't think is fair. Yes, it's Star Wars. Yes, Star Wars should always be a hit, but, go look at the box office returns for the Clone Wars movie. And then go watch the Comic-Con panel when the Clone Wars was announced that it was coming back. And then go look at the numbers for season 7. And you see what happens when, exactly like Leslie says here, a show that's trying to do different things is allowed to find the audience it was meant for. And Acolyte wasn't given that opportunity. It should, by any sort of reasonable metrics, I do think it should have gotten a second season, but because it was being judged against Star Wars, it wasn't. If it was just The Acolyte, if you drop the Star Wars from it, and it was just this weird space show, and it did those numbers, probably gets a second season. But because it's Star Wars, doesn't. It's not good enough. It has to do Mando, Obi-Wan, and weirdly, Book of Boba Fett numbers, because that's one of the highest viewed Disney Plus Star Wars shows. Whatever you might think of it, it is one of the highest viewed.
I feel like generally that was the moment where everybody would give anything Star Wars a chance because everybody was watching everything Star Wars, and then a few people fell off after, unfortunately. So okay, I've been trying to puzzle this in my brain the entire time you're talking. I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm processing so many different things. And basically what I arrived to is the idea that if you're going to make a show that is unsatisfying if it's only one season, if the main point of the show is a point that you need multiple seasons to make that point, you need to have an understanding with the person funding the show that they're willing to commit to multiple seasons at that cost first. And because, you know, I feel like at some point, I don't know if this happened, but Bob Iger or Kathy Kennedy, I don't know if some point they should have, or did they go to Leslie and say, hey, this show is really over budget. It's costing us a lot of money. Just so you're aware, if this is not one of the most watched shows for Star Wars that we've ever had, it's not getting a second season. So make sure you put everything that you got into season 1 and everything you want to put into season 1, because it might not get a second season unless it's the most popular thing ever with the amount of money we're spending on it. I don't know if that conversation happened, or if but I think it should have. And if it did, she should have listened to it and thought about some way to handle it, because that's a big gamble to make. It's a big gamble to spend so much money on a show, not really tell the whole story you want to tell, and then just assume that you're going to get a second season because it's going to do Mandalorian season 1 numbers. Like that's a big leap. And I don't want to put that fully on creative people. Like, something that is very important to me that I've learned in my life is that there's business people and there's creative people, and you don't need to be both, nor should you really be both. And so I don't want to burden people who are writing and directing and shooting shows with the full business of, here's the money in, here's the money out, you need to pay attention to this. Like, that's the reason why there are CEOs and presidents and CFOs and people like that, and boards and such. But, you know, there needs to still be an open dialogue and understanding between the two groups, the people that are funding and marketing, making money off of something, and the person that's creating it from an artistic point of view. There needs to be a dialogue, and they need to be on the same page. And this is clearly a situation where those two people or groups were not on the same page, because we got a result that neither of them wanted. Because I think either way, if those things had come together, either way, it would have been better for both parties. So the two things that should have happened, the two options, is one, Leslie could have gone to the powers that be that are writing the checks and said, okay, I have a 2 or 3 season map for this show. It's going to get into the really full storyline as we move into the second season. The first season is really just set up, similar way to how Andor is, for example. And so whatever budget you give me, there needs to be an understanding that we can sustain this budget for at least another season or 2 and put out the full story of the show. Like, and then either that should have happened, or the other option is at some point there could have been the acceptance or understanding or communication where Leslie was told or understood that with the price of this show, you only got 1 season to make your case. Like, if the first season doesn't do everything that you want to do with the show, then there's not going to be a second season. And I think then, so either way, either we get a situation where the budget's lower and they're able to have the show be the most popular thing that year, but not necessarily the most popular thing for Star Wars, and still be able to afford a second and further seasons because it's still worth it from a business point of view with the amount they spend on it versus the amount of views they're getting. It works with their math. Or it was a situation, if they're going to just blow the budget and spend Mandalorian numbers and have it be one of the most expensive TV shows ever made, then you're just going to get the fireworks and the grand finale and like all the stuff, all the no holds bar, no pull all the stops, everything for season 1. And you're just going to get into that full story of all the characters, including that one character that we barely saw, who it's just always supposed to be about. Like, you know, we would have gotten that. And then maybe we would have ended up in a, what I call a sequel-itis situation where you're stuck with, okay, you just used up all your good ideas for season 1. Now you're getting a season 2 because season 1 was the best thing ever. What do you do? How do you top that? It's probably not going to be as good. But that's probably a better problem to have. I'd rather one really good season, and then after that, we don't know how to top that, than just a season that feels like, okay, this is a really good foundation for a future show, for future seasons, but we're never going to get it. Like, I think that's very unfortunate that happened. I don't think anybody won in this situation. Disney probably feels like they lost money. Leslie felt like she was unable to tell the full story she wanted to tell and probably never get to. It sucks.
Yeah. I have a couple of things I want to touch on in what you just said, but first I want to hear from Ben. Ben, what do you think about all this?
I mean, it sucks that it feels like there was a lot of mistakes made in this process. And yes, some of those mistakes may have been on Leslie Headland's thing. I think there was some financial mistakes. There was some, a lot of different mistakes within Disney and Lucasfilm. It's just unfortunate that, like, you had shows, like, it felt like, regardless of how you feel about any of the other shows, I feel like there was at least some planning in the stage of just like, Book of Boba Fett, Skeleton Crew, Obi-Wan, all I think tell pretty rounded stories to where you could watch them and not really expect a second season. You could watch them and say, that was really good, I want more. But it's not really expectation. They told their story, they wrapped it up at the end, and things. And it was, it was Mandalorian was the exception, and it got additional seasons. Andor was another exception. It got additional seasons. It told the story. It feels like there was no pre-planning of just like, what are we going to do with this? There was just expectation of just like, well, it's just going to get a second season because it's Star Wars. And like, I think we've already learned that like, just because it's Star Wars does not mean it's going to be successful. It's going to hit home. And there's so many different factors, and you have nowadays just the financial situation in Hollywood just in general is lunacy. You have these movies coming out and they're like, oh, it has to make 500 million, it has to make 800 million, it has to make $1 billion just to break even. I'm just like, no, you're looking at this wrong. You're not. You're spending too much money. A movie should be able to make a profit with a lot less money on the table. But you're spending so much damn money at the beginning, and then and to be honest with the Acolyte, it didn't always show for it. It wasn't always the best looking show, and it sucks that it costs so much money. And obviously that didn't sit well with the penny pinchers at Disney, and that was probably one of the reasons it gets. And and you can't let Disney off the hook for the fact that I think Disney has proven itself, especially recently, that they're very reactionary to to people of a certain political agenda. And you can't remove that, and that sucks. But you also can't remove the fact that critically it didn't do as well, financially it didn't do as well. It just sucks that there couldn't be some communication or just like some general like meeting of the minds between Leslie Headland, the writers, and the production, and the financiers to go, let's try to put a bow on this a little bit so it's not, because I think Leslie Headland also said in this recent rap interview that like she didn't really have a ton of ideas for season 2. She was just kind of like, there was the cliff notes, there was some ideas on the table that wasn't written. and I think obviously there was like, it is a cliffhanger. There was stuff there. It doesn't necessarily mean there wasn't going to be a season 2, but it's a shame that there couldn't be either an agreement at the beginning that yes, we're going to commit to 2 seasons, which is what Tony Gilroy got out of the deal with Andor, or an understanding that we may not get season 2, and let's try to wrap up the story a little bit and make it a little more satisfying.
So there's a couple of things going on here. I think here's where do I want to start? I think part of the problem is that so much changed around the Acolyte in the time between it being announced and produced and the time when it aired. Because when did it actually air? Did it air 2020
last summer?
Yeah. It's last year.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right. It was announced in 2020. It was announced as part of that big Disney investor, Disney Plus Day, whatever the frig that thing was. And at that time, Disney was basically writing blank checks. Bob Chapek was saying, I need subscribers to Disney Plus. So Kathleen Kennedy, Bob Iger, or Kathleen Kennedy, Kevin Feige, whoever, go out there, find your talent, and get them to make stuff for me. Budget is maybe not no object, but it's very little objects, even compared to how we usually operate. So they go out, they hire Leslie Headland, they say, just make the show, it costs what it costs. Another factor is I do think a season 2 would have cost less regardless of, even if they tried to scale it down, because the show was shot in that 2021, 2022 period when you needed to have, when there were a lot of COVID restrictions on sets and you needed to hire a bunch of extra people to do testing, to do compliance, do all sorts of things. Shoots had to be longer because they had to be more spaced out. Like all of that stuff contribute to that budget being that insane number that people like to throw around. That's like 300 million or something. If you do season 2, it's probably not that. You're shooting it under current conditions, which are at the very least not as stringent as they were when they shot season 1. So there's that sort of conversation. So I think the budget part of it is overblown. I'm not saying it's not part of the conversation, but I just think it's overblown. And I can't blame someone for going out there and saying like, okay, you gave me the blank check, I'm going to use it to make my show. And Leslie can say, oh, there was only really a Cole's notes of the show. I don't buy that for a second. I think she knew what she wanted to do in season 2. I think she knew what she wanted to do in season 3. And she can say it's a Cole's notes because, yeah, it's an outline. It's not scripts. There aren't 16 more scripts sitting around somewhere. But I think there was an idea. And I do think that conversation was had early on with probably Kathy Kennedy and probably Dave Filoni and Carrie Beck as well to say, this is where we envision this show going. This is what we want to do with it, and this is
the only
year plan.
This is literally the only scoop that I have post COVID. The elevator pitch for this show did not happen. As in, like what they pitched would happen in the show did not happen yet on screen.
Right.
So that's that. I know that internally as a scoop.
There you go. So like there was more to come. There was more to happen.
Yeah.
And so the winds then change between 2020 when the show is announced and 2024 when it comes out. And suddenly Disney's goal isn't subscribers at whatever cost. Now they want to be making a profit from Disney Plus. So now they have to have stricter budgets on their shows. Now they have to have, it's not just enough to just keep building subscribers. You want to be making money off. That's why the price keeps going up. I just got dinged with my, price increase. It's just going to show up on my next credit card bill. Yay. Super duper happy about that, Bob. But he's like, hey, I took your money. So what do you care? Sheep.
Oh my God.
Anyway, no. So the whole point is, the situation changes. And so even if there is a conversation of like, you know what, the situation has changed to justify even a non-COVID budget, it needs to be at least as successful as, let's say, The Mandalorian season 3. Let's lower the bar just a little bit and say it's got to be at least as big as season 3. And I can't blame Leslie Headland or anybody else in a creative position for saying, you know what, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to bet on this idea that I have that that I think is going to resonate with people. And so I'm going to put my show out there, and I'm going to believe, because I believe in this show, that it will find its audience, and it will find its audience fast enough. The unfortunate reality is it may well have found its audience, but it didn't find them fast enough. And it didn't find them at the level that the Bobs, whichever Bob was making decisions at this point, I think it was Iger, it wasn't at the level that he needed it to be at. And so they canceled the show. And so it was a bet. It was a risk. She swung for the fences and she missed. And, that's just how it goes sometimes. And that's the unfortunate reality of the entertainment business, the entertainment industry, is it is those things. As much as we want it to be creatively driven, and it should be creatively driven, but money talks is where we wind up with.
And that's why I make that distinction between the creative people and the business people, because it's not, the onus is not on her. She doesn't have the burden of thinking about that. Like, I want her brain 100% focused on how to make this the best show possible. Like, that's her job, to make it the best show possible. It's not her job to figure out how much money should be spent on the show and what the implications for that are and how successful it needs to be in order to get a second season. She's not qualified to make those decisions because she's not Bob. She's not a CEO. So that's on him for not having that understanding with her and not setting her up for success. He set her up for failure in that regard. Now, there could be a world where, she actually knew that and went in exactly looking for that home run when she only needed a single. It's possible that she actually, because sometimes when you swing for the fence, sometimes that's actually the bad decision for the team. So like that could maybe he did have that conversation with her. Maybe he told her, "Hey, you're spending so much money on this show. You got to make sure that season 1 hits, because if it doesn't, you're not getting season 2. You're not getting another $300 million." And she said, "Oh, don't worry, it'll hit." And then she swings and misses. I've been knowing her. My guess is she wasn't blatantly told this and then she ignored that. I think she cares enough about art to be able to listen to that feedback and incorporate it and make it, at least shape the way she's doing things. I think he either didn't say that to her, or they just didn't fully get on the same page of how the money affected the future of the show. And how it set up expectations that it couldn't meet financially.
And this is why I'm saying, like, I think a lot of it has to do with the situation changed around the show during the time that it was in production.
That's a good
probably
point.
At the time that they were making it, it was like, hey, let's just make it. This is how much we're giving you. So make it. It's like the thing, if somebody says, okay, you've got, $20 to get dinner. So, okay, all right, we'll get a pizza. Very great. Everybody will have a pizza. Everybody will be very, very happy. Say you got $100 to have dinner. I'm not going, well, I'm getting a pizza and then keeping giving you the $80 back. Oh, we'll get a pizza and we'll get some wings and we'll get some fries and we'll get some beer. Like, we'll get like the whole thing. Like, it'll be a bigger thing. So they say to her, the budget is $300 million. She goes, great. I'm going to make a show for $300 million. And then all of a sudden they go, actually, how we said we're giving you $300 million. It won't be enough to be the third best show on Disney Plus for the year. You need to be the third best show on Disney Plus for all time. Like it's quite literally, I have altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. Like that's where we're at here.
That's a good way of looking at it.
And this then gets back. This and actually sort of connects to something that I addressed with my rant about Bob Iger a few weeks ago with the Hunt for Ben Solo. Is if the demand on a Star Wars TV show is that it has to be like that, it has to be, as popular as The Mandalorian, we're not getting many more Star Wars TV shows. And I think we know that. Just like we've gotten that sense over the last year or so. But you're not getting shows like that. And you're not, and by not allowing the shows to grow into their audience, you're cutting off your audience, your potential audience at the knees. You're stopping a potential, You're stopping potential growth and potential excitement in a new audience that can then join and then make the audience for Mandalorian even bigger because they'll have come into Star Wars through Acolyte or Hunt for Ben Solo or anything else. It just takes time. It just takes time to get there. And you need to let that audience grow and flourish the way that the audience for the Clone Wars, the prequels, Rebels, all of those things were allowed to do. And now we see stuff that is built based off of the Clone Wars, based off of Rebels, and based off the prequels being very, very successful and very, very popular right now.
Will Star Wars ever? Now I'm stuck on the baseball references since we talked about home runs. But will Star Wars ever play Moneyball? Will Star Wars ever be like, okay, we're gonna make a Star Wars show that actually is a lower budget, so that the expectations are lower and has more of a chance of being a long-term success? Will they ever make that decision? Because really, it's tough because we have this understanding between the creators of Star Wars and the fans that in some ways is toxic, which is every time they make a show, the understanding is it's going to be the best looking thing ever. Like, and you know, that goes all the way back to George Lucas. It goes back to the fact that when people finished watching the crawl in the first Star Wars movie, and then there was the pan in space, and then they saw the Star Destroyer chasing the Tantive. It was the best thing they had ever seen on a screen.
Right.
And ever since that, it set up the expectation for Star Wars that we're still trying to live up to now, of every time we go and watch a Star Wars show or we go and watch a Star Wars movie, we are expecting to see the best thing on screen we've ever seen in our entire lives. And as a result of that, there's that pressure of, well, you have to make it the most expensive movie. You have to make it the most expensive show because people are waiting to have that moment again of in 1977, seeing the best thing they've ever seen on screen in the first 10 seconds of footage from the movie. And so it's like, are they ever going to actually settle into a situation where they actually try to make something good without trying to spend so much money and try to guarantee that for some people it's the best thing they've ever seen?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. You know, you can make a team of you can have a team that's, you know, Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and all those guys, Teoscar Hernandez, Mookie Betts, you know, or you can have a team of Ernie Clement and Nathan Lucas and you know, guys like that, along with Boba Fett and Vladdy Jr. and stuff. Like, you know, I'm stuck on the World Series, okay? But you know, you can have a team. You can achieve greatness. That's the point of Moneyball. Is you can find ways to build up your audience and still hit those numbers, make the money without, you know, just committing truckloads of money to one project or one player.
Is that what we talk a lot about as fans? We spend hours and hours and hours trying to break down what is the essence of Star Wars. What is the one thing that unifies it all? We've spent, you know, probably 100 hours of our lives talking about that one question. But what is Star Wars in the minds of the people writing the checks to make it? Like in the minds of people like Bob Iger and the people who represent the companies that invest in Disney and such. Like, is the essence of Star Wars for them innovation of cinema? Like, because George Lucas, from the perspective internally of the film industry, was the guy who pushed the boundaries of cinema. He cemented sci-fi as a pop thing and not a niche thing, because it looked not like paper plates on strings. And like, and then, you know, he pushed things into digital for the first time and away from film for the first time, and just all these innovations with sound and THX and Dolby, all this stuff. And so, like, are they still viewing Star Wars as this is the thing that brings entertainment to the next level? Like, are they viewing, you know, The Force Awakens as the thing that makes 3D mainstream beyond just the gimmick of Avatar? Are they viewing The Mandalorian as this is the thing that brings cinema to the small screen for the general audience? It does something that maybe only Game of Thrones had done for an older audience, but for a general audience. Like, they're doing like everything that Star Wars has to push some type of boundary. Like the Clone Wars, it's the first CGI mainstream show. Like all this stuff. And is that actually now becoming a toxic thing? Now now is it cutting out creativity? Because it's like, if you're not going to innovate, you're not going to get greenlit.
So I have a much more cynical take on it, which is Bob Iger, the Disney board, the guys that make the decision, they don't see it as innovation. They don't see it as storytelling. They see it as Star Wars has been the third highest grossing movie of all time twice, with Star Wars and then again with The Force Awakens. And they see that, and they see all the lightsabers you can sell, and all the Lego sets, and all the Black Series figures, and all the t-shirts, and the fact you can put Star Wars stickers on oranges, and people will buy them, be like, look at that, I got Star Wars oranges. They see it as money. And so they are picking projects based on what they think will make the most money. Now, what makes the most money is things people like. So they're going to make things people like, which in and of itself is a good thing. They should make things that people like. I think that's a good idea. If I should be in charge of Disney, I say you should make things that people like. Problem is that they don't seem to have a broad enough sense of what that means. And the brilliance of Star Wars was showing people something they didn't know they wanted. And that's what Alan Ladd Jr. bet on when he bet on George back in 75, 76, around that time. And that's why he was fighting with the Fox board through the entire production of Star Wars, because they didn't get it. They're like, people don't like this stuff. People aren't interested in this stuff. People want, The Godfather. They want Bonnie and Clyde. They want they don't want Star Wars. They don't want space movies. They want gritty realism. So we should be putting our money into the gritty realism. Somebody go shut that stupid space movie down. And Laddie's like, no. Just you wait. This George guy, he knows what he's doing. And he was right. He gave people what they want. So right now, my concern, my fear with the decision makers at Disney is that they are the Fox board going, people want gritty realism. No, I like a gritty realist movie. That's great. But yeah, bring out some of those. Same way that I'm going, like I said, I am seated for The Mandalorian and Grogu. You do not have to convince me to go see that movie. You can stop doing the trailers now if I am the sole target that you are worried about. But I also want to see Star Wars projects that I don't know that I want. I want to see an Acolyte that's maybe a little shaky in the beginning, but grows into something really exciting. I want to see The Hunt for Ben Solo, where that takes these characters that haven't reached the legendary status of Han Solo or Obi-Wan Kenobi, but says we're going to do things with them that are really interesting and exciting. I want to see them do that in addition to the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda stomp around the galaxy and blow up walkers on cliffs. Like, I want to see that. I want to see it all, but they are stuck on what do we think is going to make us the most money? What do we think is going to make us the most money right now? And that's been part of the reason we haven't had a Star Wars movie in so long. And that's why a show like Acolyte wasn't given a second season. And you know what? I think we might have been a little too credulous with the whole Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna sat down and decided, you know what? Making 5 seasons of Andor will just be too hard. I think we were a little too credulous with that. I think they signed a 2-year contract, and I think Disney said, okay, we've signed the contract where it was probably really financially not good for us to break said contract. But we are expecting and they probably, again, I've altered the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further. Sometime after season 1 was shot, we are expecting this to be as big as The Mandalorian in terms of numbers. And Andor, while it was very successful, especially in its second season, because it was given the time to grow between seasons 1 and season 2, it was and allowed to flourish. Season 1 did not do the numbers of Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
It was not that. And so I think given that sort of like pressure that they were put under, then Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna and everybody sat down and went, I don't know. Like, this was a hard show to make. And if we're going to be making this hard show and every year wondering if we're going to get the chance to continue the story, I don't know if we want to do that. Maybe we just want to do 2 seasons, and we will do what you were saying earlier, Chris, about like, let's wrap up the story within the allotted episodes that we have been given. And, Tony
theory.
even said in an interview about like when they came back for season 2, they were fighting with Disney a little bit for the budget. That's why that's why there was supposed to be a standalone K2 episode that got cut because the budget was getting out of hand. And so that's why like season 2 is damn near perfect. But one of my criticisms of it is the K2SO introduction is like stapled on to the Gorman episodes and really doesn't hit for me. But there was supposed to be this whole other idea, but they cut it because of budget constraints. And Tony Gilroy even said like, there were some things that we were doing on season 2 that they were sort of reluctant to let us do. And to paraphrase what Tony was saying, you let us do it in season 1. Why aren't you letting us do it now? Season 1 was like, just go and do it. Do whatever you want. And season 2 was like, you need to account for every friggin' penny of this show that you are making. So I think that's, wow. I don't know it for a fact.
Yeah.
I don't have any insight. But like reading this various situations and trying to read between the lines of what everybody is saying, I think that might be part of it. And that might be why we didn't at least get a 3rd season of Andor.
Yeah,
I've only twice heard of situations where directors actually said, we want to do this faster, or we don't want to keep doing this anymore. And that's Peter Jackson and George Lucas. And they made a lot more for a lot longer before getting to those points.
I'll throw David Benioff and DB Weiss on there as well for the last seasons of Game of Thrones. They reached the point where they were like, we're about done.
Yeah.
And same thing. They made that was
longer.
A decade's worth of work.
Yeah. So I think one season is a little too soon to say, all right, we don't want to do this for another 3 or 4. That seems a little too soon for that compared to other situations where we feel like people have tried to wrap things up really quickly.
Yeah. But ultimately, this is the conundrum of Hollywood and artistry in general. This whole discussion we're having here of just like the ideal circumstance for making anything, whether you want a painting or a big budget movie, is to have the artist and an idea, and right over there is a money printing machine. You have as much money as you could possibly need, and it's just there, and there's no rigmarole. But the reality is much different than that. And this is the peril of where we're at with ultimately something that I, in my most cynical moments, in my most fearful moments as a lover of Star Wars, think about, of just like Star Wars is a thing we all love, but it is beholden to a company that really only cares about money. It really is maybe not only, I don't want to be that cynical, but is mostly concerned with making a profit. Because Disney, yes, they're got to make their shareholders happy. They've got to pay all their millions of employees every Friday. Like, they've got so much overhead. And
they need to fire some of those employees so that their shareholders and CEOs can get bigger bonuses.
That too. There it is. But like, we came from a place where, like, Star Wars: A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and even Return of the Jedi, like 3 of movies that are considered to be some of the best movies ever made. But George Lucas had to sell everything, had to beg the banks to pay for those movies. Like, there was riddled with so much financial issues. And then going forward and him being the brilliant businessman that he was to build an empire, build Lucasfilm into what it became so he could do what he wanted to the point where he's making Clone Wars and it's so expensive, but he's just doing it because he wants to do it and because he's invested in that and the people were invested in it. And it eventually found its audience like we're talking about. But then selling that off to Disney, and we're in a situation where like, okay, we have a blank check. No more financial issues. But the people that are in charge of this are only concerned about the money. They're not concerned as much as they should be about the artistry of it, the creative input. And that sucks. It just sucks. It's always going to suck. And you have to toe that line, this Hollywood line of artistry versus finance, because you can't have one without the other.
Yeah, they're concerned about the creative output, but insofar as it relates to the monetary and financial input that comes back to them. The one other piece of this that I will say, Leslie alludes to the publicness of the cancellation. One thing that has been weird about Star Wars shows is that they don't really get canceled. They just kind of fade away. Like Skeleton Crew has not been canceled, but there's been no movement as far as we're aware on season 2. Book of Boba Fett was coming up on 5 years ago. 4 years ago at least. It's never been canceled, but we haven't heard anything about a season 2. Tamura Morrison's out at conventions every few weeks going, make another season. Come on. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor, Ben, you remember this? We were at Celebration Anaheim. He's talking about wanting to watch episodes 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 with everybody. They're not making more of that. It didn't get canceled. Now that one they said was a limited series, so there's a little bit of leeway there. Acolyte is the only one that ever got like a cancellation story where it was reported in the press. It didn't go up on StarWars.com or anything, but it was Hollywood Reporter, Rap, Variety, those sites, Deadline, the Hollywood trades that where they say something, it's basically official. And that means that insiders at Disney and Lucasfilm talked to the press about this, and the only reason they talked to the press about it is because they want that to be out there, and so they wanted it out there that they had canceled the Acolyte, whether that comes from the Disney side, the Lucasfilm side, whoever. And I'll just say that's kind of bullshit. That's a bullshit way to treat the people that worked on this show. It'd be one thing if it was just standard operating procedure, as if after your you decide you're not making more seasons, you tell the press, yep, we're done. No more Skeleton Crew, no more Book of Boba Fett. You just tell them that. But if you're not doing that for all your shows, and you're just doing this to one, and it's the show that became kind of a flashpoint for the culture wars, left-right divide, all that stuff that we're dealing with. It would, that's, you could have just let it. You could have just let it linger. Could have just let it linger and let the cast contracts expire. Frankly, which. Life isn't fair. Hollywood isn't fair. The world isn't fair. Yeah, no, right, fair. That's fair. Fair enough that life isn't fair, but it's still kind of bullshit. And I don't. If I'm Leslie Headland, I don't appreciate that. I can understand and respect the decision, as you said, but I don't appreciate the fact that they went public with it when they didn't do that for all the other shows.
Yeah, I think. To me, my only assumption for that is that it's only one of those shows that had like a map for a second season that had been discussed.
It's true. So
there's more of a reason to bring that up. Whereas the other show, like I went into Book of Boba Fett and Skeleton Crew thinking this is a one-off thing. Like no one's talking really about what's going to happen in season 2, or is there any allusions to it?
There was a different vibe. There was a different vibe with the Acolyte. And not to say that, like, I think, like, obviously Skeleton Crew had a huge, marketing campaign. All the shows had pretty big marketing campaign. Like Acolyte felt special. Like all of the stuff, like having like the song and the credits that was released as a single, like all this kind of stuff, and putting the teaser in front of the Phantom Menace, screenings, like there was a lot going on with Acolyte. It felt like something special. Felt like they were really pushing it hard. And I think with that ending, it was the expectation of just like, oh, this is going to keep going, right. And then it just like, that was the vibe. Whereas like I was saying earlier, like, you watch Skeleton Crew and you're like, okay, this is great. But it could end here and I'm not like devastated.
Yeah. It's true. Speaking of Skeleton Crew, let's move on to something a little bit more exciting, a little bit more pleasant than the cancellation of a show that we liked. And that is the Emmy nominations for the Children's and Family Emmys came out this week. Star Wars picked up, what are we at here? 22 nominations, 17 of which are for Skeleton Crew, 4 for Young Jedi Adventures, and 1 for Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. Among the nominations for Skeleton Crew are Outstanding Young Teen Series, Outstanding Lead Performer for Jude Law, Outstanding Younger Performer for Ravi Kabat Conyers, who was Wim, Outstanding Writing, Outstanding Directing, Outstanding Cinematography, basically all of the outstanding categories for Skeleton Crew. Young Jedi Adventures, Outstanding Directing and Outstanding Voice Performance for D. Bradley Baker as Nubs and Z-Pose. I've not watched enough Young Jedi Adventures to know who the second one of those is. And Lego Star Wars, their big nomination, their one nomination was for Outstanding Sound Mixing and Sound Editing. I'll throw it out to whoever wants to talk about this. Exciting news for Star Wars at the Emmys once again.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take this one. I'll take this one because I think we moved on way too fast from Skeleton Crew. Remains one of my favorite shows as of late. I still regularly go back to the soundtrack, and I need to do a full rewatch of the show. But I canceled my Disney Plus because reasons. I didn't want that price hike. Okay, so there, I'll get it back when something else happens. But like that show really was special, and I'm glad to see. I actually don't know. I don't know how. I will not pretend to understand how the Emmys work, because I know that obviously we just had the regular Emmys. I'm assuming this is a different category, and Skeleton Crew being a children's show, it wasn't going to get nominated. Would like to have seen things. Obviously, great to see Andor get nominated, but I feel like I'm not sure how this all works, but it's good to see it gets some recognition in this category of Emmys because it's great. And it's just, Skeleton Crew it's just a delightful show. It was all around great show. As I've said before, it doesn't need a season 2. It's great as it is, but damn it if I don't want several seasons, because I was just so delighted by it.
Yes. I didn't realize that Tom went AFK for a second. My bad. Yeah, definitely. What I was thinking about when you were talking was just how kind of strange it is that Emmys is kind of divided into primetime Emmys, daytime Emmys, children's Emmys, technical awards. It's interesting to me that it's all these different things. And I think maybe that comes in from the fact that the awards are entertainment within themselves, which might be a problem. I think one of the reasons why a lot of these things are relegated to not the main stage is because there is a stage for the Emmys. It's not just, an internal industry thing, but there's an Emmy Award show, and they can only talk about certain things on that show, and they'll have so much time to talk about the certain things because it's a show. So, I think that's kind of the grain of salt that always needs to kind of be thought of when thinking about these awards and how they're kind of divided up and how they interact with each other is it's not exactly about just what's the best thing that deserves recognition. It's more how does recognizing this thing also create another thing that deserves recognition. I think it's 1-2 level too far on that.
Yeah, it is. It's weird, and it gets a little messy because, like, obviously, it's very hard to because they're trying to take all this entertainment and put it into like one award ceremony or one thing, and make it to where like it's a digestible like thing you can sit down and watch and be enjoyable. But then they're like, well, let's do all of the exciting ones like Best Actor and Best Actress and Best Cinematography, whatever else. But then we're gonna sideline all of the technical awards like visual effects or whatever else. Necessarily put those in the main thing, and basically put them in a place where no one's going to see them, and kind of like push them off to the side. I'm just like, guys, this feels bad, especially in an industry that seems to treat its people like visual effects artists pretty badly sometimes. It's not, and they deserve as much recognition as anybody else, in my opinion. So yeah, it just gets a little messy and weird.
I agree. I sort of feel like Skeleton Crew, has an actual chance of winning here. Where if it was in, as you guys recommend,
I mean, it's certainly got a bunch of chances to win, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. Well, I like the Clone Wars is an example I'll think about. Like, as soon as it was started being eligible for daytime Emmys, that's when it started winning. That's when it started picking up the awards, because it was being judged. People were actually considering it, unlike when it was going up against Family Guy.
And it's not Skeleton Crew's not going to win much when it's going up against The Pit and Severance. I'm sorry. All due respect to Skeleton Crew, it's just not going to happen.
It's not that kind of show. Andor is
still being nominated would of course mean something as well. Yeah. I think so. I bring it to a different sports analogy, a meta sports analogy. I saw a very interesting video recently, which was, why is it that in America, American football is the most popular sport? What does it have that the other sports don't have?
Question.
And the answer that this video essay came to was, it has the best storytelling. So you care about so many different characters within the NFL, and even lines of teams. And that's just more so than other sports in America, at the very least. And so I think that maybe the entertainment industry has a storytelling, an off-screen storytelling problem, because they're very good at telling stories on screen. That's the point. But they're not good at telling stories off screen. Off screen, the stories are much relegated to a few directors and then a bunch of A-list actors. And then once in a while, you'll have some underdog situation come up, or, some new person on the block that you're rooting for. But what's storytelling for, like, the Oscars, for example? It's, wow, Leonardo DiCaprio has been in so many good movies and has given so many good performances. And he's the most popular actor ever, but he's never won an Oscar. Like, that's their version of storytelling. Yeah. And so I think maybe if they were better at storytelling and highlighting all the different aspects of the industry and all the different genres of the industry and audiences of the industry, then I think that maybe there would be more recognition for things that deserve that recognition, instead of just focusing on, okay, these are the characters, we're going to make our storytelling about Chris Rock and Will Smith. Like, so, that's literally the WWE. So, like, I think that's the problem, is like better storytelling. Like, let's actually like for instance, like, think about, we talked about the marketing of Mandalorian and Grogu earlier. And, the thing that we're going to expect to see is, you're going to expect to see Pedro Pascal taking a lie detector test. with Sigourney Weaver, and that's what's gonna happen,
aren't they? That's gonna
gonna
hold up a board and peel away a thing that says, "Does Pedro Pascal like chewing gum or something?"
Yes,
right.
Yeah. That's what we're about to see in a few months.
Does Pedro Pascal like to dance?
Yeah, but it's like, is the problem that like that's how we're interacting with Pedro Pascal, or is it more like, why is Pedro Pascal the person we're interacting with? Like, what if we were interacting with the director of photography, or what if we were interacting with the costume person? I forget what that's called. Yeah, designer. Like the designer. Like, what if we actually made stories about who these people are instead of relegating them to like specific trade magazines about those specific things? Like, I'm sure that's the only time they really get an opportunity to really give an interview or talk about their personal story, because these are all people. These are all people. There's nothing that's inherently more interesting about Pedro Pascal than the person who has designed the Mandalorian outfit that he's wearing. Do I know the name of that person? No. And there's a reason why, and it's because they're not being thrust into the spotlight like that. So maybe that's kind of what needs to happen. That's the issue, is like, we need to have more storytelling around different aspects of, the entertainment industry, and not just your A-list people. And I think it's a bit of a cop-out to say, well, some people are media trained and some people aren't. Actors are inherently media trained. Their career is big on camera. So even when they're not acting, they're still acting when they're promoting something. We can trust them to do that. I think that's kind of really an old legacy way of looking at things. And I think podcasts have kind of shown that. Like, we know that anybody can be on a podcast because we're on a podcast, and we know it can be engaging and interesting to people that want to connect with whatever topics being talked about. So let's have a podcast with more of the behind the scenes people. And if we have a podcast with more of the behind the scenes people instead of just with Pedro Pascal, then maybe when we sit down to watch the Emmys or the Oscars, in this case, The Mandalorian and Grogu, we actually are a little bit more invested in who wins the costuming or special effects award, because we actually know the voice, we know the face, we actually have a story to connect it to and to root for, rather than just, oh, well, I like this movie because of Pedro Pascal and because of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, so it would be nice if the person who did their costumes wins something too. But it's by proxy and association that we have any feeling of it at all. It's not related to the person whose name is actually on the award. I think that needs to change.
Yeah. One, just to add on to that, one of the best panels I saw at San Diego Comic-Con a few years ago was the costumes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it was 4 people from the costume department sitting down for an hour, telling their stories, talking about making the costumes for that show. It was excellent. It made me completely forget that I could have been in the Marvel Studios panel that was happening at the same time. Like, it was really, really good. So put these people out there, let them tell their stories, let them talk about
there's
it.
I forget who he did it with, but Todd Vazari, who is big in visual effects, at ILM, like, he did a whole video just talking about various movies, not just Star Wars movies, but several Star Wars movies. Endlessly fascinating, like just a good 20-30 minutes. Like, no disrespect to the, like, here's Pedro Pascal or insert other actor playing with puppies videos that they do. Like, those are fun, but also, like, I would much rather listen to someone who knows what they're talking about, like, really get into the weeds and, like, talk about the visual effects, the costuming, or whatever, than some interviewer who is clearly desperate, clearly maybe doesn't even qualify to be there, going like, oh, here's the latest Pedro Pascal daddy meme, and here's what we're going to talk about. I'm just like, God, people.
Well, so just I grew up watching the behind the scenes documentaries about the prequels and the original trilogy. And I think you both did too. The characters in those, and I don't mean Luke, Han, and Leia. I don't mean Mark Harrison and Carrie. I mean George, Rick McCallum to start, those guys, Gary Kurtz, but then Lauren Peterson, John Knoll, Ralph McQuarrie, Doug Chang, just going down the list, Like there's a few where I can see their faces in my mind, but I can't think of. Rob Coleman is another one. Howard Kazanjian, yeah, like all of them. Like they became like familiar faces. They became parts of the Star Wars story that were important to me. And earlier this year, when I was at Celebration Japan, I saw Rob Coleman on a panel for the first time in like decades. Like he's not working on the new Star Wars movies. He doesn't show up at these things, but he was at one of these panels and I saw him and I was like, oh my God, Rob, I missed you. Because like you were part of the Star Wars experience on the behind the scenes of Attack of the Clones, Phantom Menace, and Revenge of the Sith for so long. And then you were gone. And there he was again. It was exciting. It was almost like seeing, it wasn't like, it wasn't the Chewie we're home moment, but it was sort of like that, a lower level version of that within me of like, wow, yeah, there's that guy who was such a big part of making the things that I loved. And I it's kind of a shame that we don't know the people like that on the sequels quite as well. Yeah. We know JJ and Ryan and Michael Arndt and Larry Kasdan and Chris Terrio to a lesser degree, but we don't, I couldn't tell you who a lot of the concept artists were. And the only ones that I could tell you who they were, it's because they worked on the prequels too, right? Like Ryan Church and Doug Chang. Like it's not you're missing out on that side of things. And yeah. But the fact that they became characters to us, they became people that we recognized, just proves your point that you can make that out of the cinematographer or the editor or any other position like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh! I mean, editors. I mean, talk about there's been some amazing editors in the history of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, so there you go. Congrats to the various crews working on Skeleton Crew, Young Jedi Adventure, and Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. Best of luck at the Children and Families Emmy. We'll quickly hit a couple of super chats here. Joel has kindly submitted a few of them. First one from way back at the beginning of the show. Of the two Bens, who is the master and who is the apprentice, and how do you plan to usurp the other?
That's good.
If you were just listening to the show, you weren't watching it, you probably forgot that there are two Bens here.
Yeah. I too forgot there was two Bens because if you just noticed just a minute ago, and I had to laugh at myself because normally speaking, if I need to get up from this place where we're doing the podcast, this is a little behind the scenes for you. I will mute myself and I will turn off my camera so it just looks normal. I, without skipping a beat, muted the mic and the camera on one of my cameras and got up and left. Didn't even think about the other one. Still rolling, still showing me things.
Showing empty chair.
I was sneaking around. It caught me in the act. And I'm still giggling about it. But clearly this one is the master, okay? Or the other one is the master because I am clearly the apprentice. I am an idiot.
Yeah, you walked away, left us talking to an empty chair like Clint Eastwood at the Republican convention in 2012.
Wow.
Oh, God.
That was a long time ago. Wow.
Oh, my God. What a time that was. Remember when that was the craziest thing that was happening?
I was about to say that's an amazing time when that was the craziest thing.
That was the craziest thing. You know what? I'd take that as the Republican convention over whatever the hell they've done.
Remember when the craziest quote was someone saying, "I look out my window and see Russia."
Yeah.
And then people believing that she actually said that.
Or the weirdest
wasn't Tina
weirdest
Fey?
thing. The weirdest thing that happened in a speech was someone threw a shoe at the president. Like, come on, let's go back to those days.
Oh my gosh.
Nostalgic.
You know what? Let's not go back to those days. Let's have better days for the future. That's what I say. Let's not go back. Let's go forward. And that's why I'm announcing my candidacy for
oh God.
All right. Next up from Joel. Joel, when you submitted this question, did you think we would end on a run about crazy moments in politics in the last 20 years? Next one is, I think what Iger wants from Star Wars isn't going to matter much longer, considering he's most likely going to retire next year along with Kathy Kennedy. True, but he's going to pick a successor, and what they want is going to matter, and then we'll just get to yell at that Bob instead of the current Bob, just like we did with Chapek for 16 months or however long that lasted. So yeah, I've put a lot of the blame for a lot of my frustrations on Iger, and I don't think I'm wrong to do that, but I don't for a second believe that he is the sole problem, and he's not just a symptom of a larger issue. And I think the larger issue will continue with different leadership, but I do think different leadership could be better at managing the larger issue.
He's a good pinata. He's a good pinata just to beat the crap out of every once in a while. But
figuratively.
But yeah, he's not the only one.
I mean, it's positioned in a way where you either get a sequel to The Acolyte or you don't have enough money to retire. That's how it's positioned. Like, it's like, yes, there are billionaires and people that are, out very disproportionately have a say in what Disney does. One of them is George Lucas. Remember that, and the estate of Steve Jobs and so forth. But like at the same time, don't underestimate the fact that people's retirement nest eggs and what they're going to live off of after they stop working is the profits that are made from Star Wars. And if there aren't profits, they're not going to be able to do that. And it's not, again, I think that's dumb that it's set up that way. You shouldn't have to choose between those two things, but that is the reality. And Bob is just a middleman between that.
Yeah, it's a CEO is like, we'll just keep using sports metaphors, like the commissioner of the league. They take all the punches so that the owners can keep their hands relatively clean. Bob takes all the punches so that the shareholders, be they individuals, be they estates, be they pension funds, be they other corporations, can keep their hands relatively clean. I mean, if you ever tune into a Disney earnings call, which I have, despite not owning stock in the company, when they have the Q&A portion, you notice that a lot of the questions come from shareholders who are just representatives of other corporations that own stock in the Walt Disney Company.
Yeah.
They all just eat it. It's like just a whole bunch of snakes eating each other. Anywho.
I mean, literally, that's what it is. But that's not what this podcast is about. That's a 3-hour conversation.
Not today, anyway.
And finally from Joel, sadly, I think if you're looking for innovation, it's probably going to come from indie creator-owned original IP, which Star Wars will never be again. Yes and no. Yes, that is where you will get the most consistent stuff. Like if you're looking for new original stuff, go to the small press pavilion at Comic-Con. Or you better yet, don't go to Comic-Con, find your local comics arts festival. That's where you find the really original, really sort of pushing boundaries, innovative stuff. And it's great. I love it. But I do think that the studio system, as it has existed for 100 years, has produced a lot of really interesting, really exciting, really innovative stuff. Sometimes within franchises, not always, but sometimes. And so I don't think it's unreasonable to push them to try to do that with Star Wars, or to ask them to try to do that with Star Wars. Understanding that it's less likely to happen than it was under George, but it is still achievable within Disney. Look at Andor. Yeah, how great Andor was. Disney made that.
Nothing
I barely believe it myself.
Nothing is black and white. Like there's not, just because something is indie and it's independent and it's made by someone who's outside the system and made on a shoestring budget does not necessarily mean it's going to be good, and vice versa. There's a lot of great things that are being made by giant studios. And it's because just the stars align, and you have people who may have made an indie product coming into the studio system, and the studios maybe taking a step back or not being as meddlesome and letting them do it, like in the case of Andor.
Yeah. Oh, anytime you pick up a book, movie, comic, TV show, video game, whatever, whether it's made by a massive studio or one person alone working on it themselves, there's every possibility that you're going to love it. There's every possibility you're going to hate it. And there's every possibility you're going to land somewhere in between. That's just how we work as humans when we respond to stories and art and entertainment and fun things, and sometimes not so fun things, but things that make us feel. All right, I think that's where we'll leave it. For this week. Lots of good stuff. Another one of those weeks where for a lot of this week I was thinking, what the hell are we going to talk about? And we're coming up on 2 hours here, which is great. So we'll leave it here and begin to wrap things up for this week. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We will be back next week, same time, same place, to discuss whatever else goes on. Or actually, we might not be. This was something we hadn't decided on because it's fake Thanksgiving next week. So I think some of these Americans might need to be celebrating. So keep an eye on the socials. Keep an eye on @the SWU.
We'll see
on your various social media platforms. We'll either be back next week or we'll be back the week after that. So we'll be back soon at some point. No more than 3 weeks from now. We will return for more fun Star Wars conversations, and who knows what the heck is going to go on in between that time. In the meantime, make sure you subscribe. That way you will know when we are back, be it on YouTube, be it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you like to listen to your shows. And if you enjoy the show, become a channel member on YouTube. It's a way to financially support the show. And we really do appreciate it. I make the joke about we don't give you anything because we haven't set that up, but we do genuinely appreciate it when people join up there. It does mean a lot. Keep the conversation going between shows. Join the Discord. Get in on all the fun stuff that Ben and Joel have planned over there. Ben, what's coming up Discord-wise in the next couple of weeks?
Nothing!
Yay!
Nothing this week, I think, although you never know. Someone like Jesse just goes in there and just like streams his game sometimes. You really don't know, so just keep an eye out.
Love that. Get some game streams going. So join the Discord and check out the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network. As we mentioned, there's the Raeside, there's Ion Cannon, there's Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, there's the Tractor Beam. You can also subscribe to Hot Off the Press, which is my Substack. So DominicGJones.substack.com, or just search for Hot Off the Press. 2 posts a week, sometimes talking Star Wars Rebels, sometimes talking Clone Wars, sometimes talking about the news, just putting the finishing touches before we got started recording on a new piece about Visions. So we'll keep talking about Visions over there. So again, DominicGJones.substack.com. Ben, thank you both for hosting. Been a lot of fun. I should mention one of my clones is about to die, so I have to say this all really quick. I actually have a lot to say tonight, so here we go. First off, next week, I will not be here. Whether you do a show or not, I will not be here. And then the next week, I will also not be here. So it's going to be a little bit. So bye for a little while. I'll check back in with you guys. I hope you guys are all right without me, because I'm going to be gone. Okay, and if you want to find out what I'm going to be doing in the next couple weeks, follow my socials. You may remember also,
Does anybody remember Star Wars Wasteland? You remember that show? That show that happened way long time ago? I think maybe all of us at one point, or maybe all at the same time, guessed on. Well, they just had their 10th anniversary. They did a 4.5 hour live stream of their 10th anniversary. Got the entire crew back together, all their old guests, including myself, who was, I don't know how, for the last like half of that thing, I was on there. Did some trivia things. It really genuinely was like a fun time to like see everyone and get some nostalgia going, and that was great. So definitely go. I think it's on Fandom Empire Network channel on YouTube. Go find them. And yeah, I'm not dead yet, so there's still two of me. So we can keep going. Just go. Keep
All right.
going.
Oh my goodness.
Let's let the Ben clones fight it out and figure out which one gets to stay. I just had a look at my calendar and realized I'm not going to be here 2 weeks from now either. So it might actually be gone for a little bit.
I love that.
So we'll figure this out, and we will blast out the news in various formats across the internet. Chris, thank you for hosting as always as well.
Yes. Now, see, I'm confused because I thought the whole point of Ben cloning himself was that so that one of him could go off and do things for 2 weeks and the other one could stay here.
I know.
So
I know.
I thought that was the point. So now I want to know, like, okay, so not only does one of you have to go do something, but two do. That makes it even more intriguing that you need two people for whatever you're going to be doing over the next 2 weeks. That's really, really, really intriguing.
That's why you gotta follow Ben. Find out what he's doing, what sort of crazy wild times he's getting up to. All right, that's it. That is what we are leaving things on for at least the next 7 days, potentially the next 14 days, and who knows, maybe even the next 21 days. So that's where we'll leave it. I don't know. I don't even know what we're supposed to say anymore. Thanks for listening. For Ben, for Chris, for Hannah, who couldn't be here, for all the other wonderful people of the Star Wars Underworld. My name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you. It's a wrap.